Hello and welcome to week 9. So we are officially in the second half of the semester and the rest of the time is just going to fly. So what we're going to be doing this week is starting to look at the importance of having a developmentally appropriate schedule. And this is a great time to look at this topic because we just finished looking at the importance of the physical environment, and I'm hoping that you are really getting a sense of how difficult it is sometimes to set up a developmentally appropriate classroom simply because of the time that it takes in the planning and the preparation. So I don't mean to say that it's difficult to discourage you. What I mean is I hope you're starting to understand that there's so much more to setting up a high quality classroom than just going in and throwing a few posters on the wall. So from your activity center, I am sure that you have gotten a new appreciation for what teachers need to do when they're setting up the centers in their classroom. And you only had to look at one center. High quality, developmentally appropriate centers normally have 9. And so think about multiplying what you learned about in your center times 9. And now you have an understanding of what teachers need to do ahead of time. And that is so important to realize that a lot of planning has to go into making our classrooms developmentally appropriate. And so the schedule is another part of that. So this week you're going to be looking at Chapter 8, which is dealing with schedules and curriculum. And so I'm also going to be introducing you to your next assignment, which is the schedule assignment. So if you remember in an announcement, I told you that if you can make it through these next few weeks with the assignments, that the end of the semester isn't going to be quite so difficult. Kind of the middle time is when you're going to have several of the assignments, but they're all starting to become due. So hopefully you won't be having to do so many of them at once. So the schedule is the third part of the key assessment for CHD 120. So the Activity Center presentation that you're going to be submitting this week, that is Part A. Part B is the observation that you should be working on, and hopefully you had a chance to go ahead and get started. And then Part C is the schedule. So if you are planning on getting your associate's degree, those 3 assignments are the ones that you're going to need to hold on to for your portfolio at the end. So what I'm going to do is just very quickly go through the schedule assignment just to make sure that you have a good understanding of how to do it. It is not a difficult assignment and it's not a time-consuming assignment, but it does require you to really spend some time thinking about how you want to arrange your day. So when you go into Blackboard, for the course content folder this week, I've got a cute little video for you that just shows how a teacher encourages students every morning, because one of the things you're going to find with your schedule is that you want to make sure that you're balancing active and quiet times, that you're making sure that your group times aren't too long, and that we do want children to be involved and be active learners. So this is just a cute little video I found that I thought might give you some ideas. So again, here's the Chapter 8 PowerPoint. You do have a discussion board this week, but because you are in the midst of working on several assignments, you only need to post. You don't need to respond to any of your classmates this week. So when you go under here, under the schedule assignment, you're going to find several things in here. So one, this is a PowerPoint that's going to kind of give you some background information and some important information to keep in mind when you are working on your schedule. This is a narrated PowerPoint that I did that will walk you through everything that you need to do when you are completing this assignment. This is in my face-to-face class. I recorded the instruction for when I went over the schedule, so if you want to listen to it and follow along, you are welcome to do that. But here's where you're going to get down to the instructions. I have put, there's a schedule sample. It only gives you the first few things. I can't give you an entire schedule because so many of our schedules are going to look relatively the same, but it does give you an idea of how to get started. So the directions are on here. And the schedule sample is here. Here's the blank form that you're going to work from. And then here is a template, just to make sure that you have everything. But basically what you're going to be doing for the schedule is you are going to be compiling a schedule. You have to make it up on your own. You're not going to find it on Google, for a center, for a classroom that is open from 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. So I'll go ahead and give you some advance notice that that's 11 and a half hours, and that's going to be very important for you to know. So when you look at the directions, there's going to be several things that it's going to tell you. One of them is going to tell you that you have to make sure that your classroom is going to be set up for preschool age. And the reason that's important, and you'll notice it in chapter 8 of your book, is because for preschool classrooms, you actually don't need to put a bathroom time on there, because we are assuming that children are able to go independently, obviously with supervision, but we don't need to have scheduled times. Whereas obviously in a toddler classroom you will, because you're supposed to have a 2-hour diaper and bathroom check in those classrooms as children are being potty trained. But this again is going to be for preschool age, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. So one of the main things that I really want you to take from this is the importance of the substantial portion of the day. And that is a term that you're going to see over and over and over again when it is referring to developmentally appropriate schedules. So basically, substantial portion of the day is 1/3 of the operating hours. So I've already told you that this is for an 11 and a half hour day, but thankfully you don't have to do the math. There's actually a calculator for you. But what that means is that children need to have free access to all learning centers for at least 1/3 of the day. So that means that you're going to need to have blocks of time in the morning, in the afternoon, and you're probably going to find another block of time, whether or not it is another morning time, whether it's another afternoon time. But somehow your columns are going to have to add up to what the actual substantial portion of the day is going to be. That is one of the main things that I'm going to be looking for in this schedule, is making sure that you understand and you know how to schedule your day so that children are going to have that time to be able to have free access to the centers. So again, if you take it step by step, again, there's a narrated PowerPoint. There is also the recorded instruction from my face-to-face class. So hopefully, if you use those resources, you're not going to have any questions. But obviously, if you do, please email me and I will get back to you, so that this is not going to be something that is going to provide a stumbling block for you. So I tried to make it step by step so that you understand what it is that you need to do. There are a few other questions you're going to answer, talking about the difference in schedules between a preschool classroom and an infant toddler classroom. And then I've also given you some hints that there are certain times where it might be good to have free access to the centers. So a couple of things to make sure that you do not only put in your schedule, but you do correctly. When you do your whole group time for your circle time, I would not go higher than 20 minutes. Ideally, 15 minutes may be pretty good, but you don't want to have a large portion of time, because as you know, children are not going to be able to keep their attention that long. And the other thing that's important is that your nap time needs to be 2 hours. So those are, again, just some things to kind of help you as you are going to create your schedule. And then there are a couple of challenge questions. So here are the calculators that I talked about. So here's the substantial portion of the day. And so again, I've already told you that it's 11 and a half hours. So now you know that each center except for music and gross motor, which is your outside time, they all need to add up to at least 3 hours and 50 minutes. It is perfectly fine to go over it, but you certainly do not want to go under that because it is going to affect your grade. The other calculator is a minimal access, and that basically means at the bare minimum, what do children need to have in order to get some kind of credit. And so here is where you are actually going to be for your minimal access, because this is actually 8+ hours. So anything over 8 hours and above, the minimal access is going to be 60 minutes. So if I give you just a quick glance at what the schedule sample looks like, I think it will make a little bit of sense to you. So you obviously, when you open your blank schedule, you're going to have to add quite a few rows. It's really easy to do. You can, depending on what version of Microsoft Word you have, because this is a Word document, all you have to do is you can just click on this little plus that pops up and you can add as many as you want. It doesn't matter to me how many pages this goes or how it flows together. If something gets cut from one page and onto another page, it really doesn't matter to me. But basically what you're going to see is that over here is where you're going to keep track of the time. And what you notice is that there's a beginning and an ending time. And the reason you need that is because you are going to have to calculate how long something is taking. So every minute should be accounted for from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Do not forget transitions. And what I mean by transitions is if they have to wash their hands. Most of the time after they wake up from a nap, you may have them, you may decide that you want to have a bathroom time on there, or right after lunch before they're going to have their nap, you may have them wash their hands and go to the bathroom, but every single minute needs to be accounted for. Another transition is cleanup. So you can't just say that children are going to finish in one center and immediately go to have their morning snack, because there has to be a cleanup time. So transitions need to be included in your schedule as well. And basically what happens is whenever children are going to have access to the centers, whether it's all of the centers or only a few centers, that's the only time that you put the time in the columns that it fits. But obviously circle time, nap time, lunch, snack, nothing is going to be in these boxes because children aren't going to the centers during that time. But during your arrival, during your departure, you may choose to have certain centers open. And so you just want to make sure that you put that time under whatever centers you have chosen to have open then. But obviously, all centers are available. You're going to need to have several of those blocks, at least an hour and 15 minutes, but I wouldn't go higher than an hour and a half. And you also notice that when it says all centers available, the only one that's not listed is gross motor, and that's because gross motor is outside. Outside, children should be going outside for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. And so basically all that ends up happening is you just start adding once you get everything done. So remember that minimal access, that's going to be 60 minutes, and that goes in every single one of these blue blocks. And the substantial portion of the day is going to be 3 hours and 50 minutes, and that goes in every single one of these blocks. But what you will notice on your form is that it's going to say that music and gross motor, that substantial portion of the day does not apply. Obviously, for music, if it meets it, that's fantastic. But music actually is 60 minutes a day. There should be at least music for an hour a day, and the same thing for gross motor. But they are excluded from the substantial portion of the day requirement. So again, have fun with it. I really want it to be something that you feel like is going to be helpful to you in the future. You have a couple of weeks to get it done. So if after you've watched everything and listened to everything, you still have some questions, send me an email and I'll be happy to help you. So enjoy this first week of the second half of the semester. And I am looking forward to reading your discussion board postings on developmentally appropriate schedules. So have a great week, and I will see you in week 10.